Blog Talk Radio. Welcome. This is the Evilkind Media Network's Blog Talk Radio Show. My name is Nicodemus, and I've got two things that I bet you don't have. I have a pen name, which is unique, right? And I also have a monkey on my back. That's right. And it's actually the size of Texas. I just wanted to mention that. I have this huge monkey on my back the size of Texas. I doubt you have that as well. Okay, so I'd like to plug Evilkind once again, evilkind.com. If you like what we're doing, please visit and check out our cool shirts and hats at the shop on evilkind.com. A lot of work goes into these shows, and we would certainly appreciate expressions of appreciation. And we've got cool fashion available for your enjoyment, so please peruse. Click and buy away. Okay, so I have a lot of information to relay to you today. And I wanted to preface all of that with just a word about what I'm about to do. I'm going to bring up a few concepts and definitions, not to insult your intelligence, but just to sort of throw them into the ether so they're in your mind as the show progresses. Basically, what we're talking about today is full truth about past life regression, necromancy, and automatic writing. Okay, so we're going to discuss the messages that are coming through from all of these mediums and what that's all about, because we have certainly concluded that there is an agenda at hand, and it's not a pleasant one, even though the messages do seem to be quite pleasant. But so I'd like to start off with a couple of definitions. First of all, salvation. What is salvation? Well, salvation is defined as being saved or protected from harm, or being saved or delivered from some dire situation. In religion, salvation is stated as the saving of the soul from sin and its consequences. Now, what is a religion? And again, I'm not trying to insult your intelligence. I'm just defining it here. There is purpose to this. A religion is an organized collection of beliefs, cultural systems, and worldviews that relate humanity to an order of existence. Many religions have narratives, symbols, and sacred histories that aim to explain the meaning of life and or to explain the origin of life or the universe. That is the technical definition of what a religion is. Now, to the atheist, all religions are invalid because they all exist. Therefore, if they all exist, how could one of them be true? If the Hindus believe in thousands of deities that are all manifestations of Brahman, right, and the Christians believe in Jesus, well then, they're both wrong. Okay? And now, our purpose here is not to sell you on any one religion. We are exposing a consistent stream of lies that have definite purpose. And again, from our perspective, it comes from seeing beyond the lies, right? So from, I don't want to say an elevated perspective. It's not like we're sort of putting ourselves up on a pedestal or anything, but once you look at it from this perspective, it all becomes very clear. So just to summarize that again. So religions exist to explain why we're here, where we came from, how we should live, and what will happen when we die. Okay? And now when it comes to this concept of salvation, there's a very key point to understand. On this planet, in our world, there are only two ways to understand salvation. Only two. You have, I think I just read there are like almost 4,200 different religions that exist on the earth today. But when it comes to salvation, there are only two ways to achieve that. And I'm going to demonstrate that right away. So the first way is to achieve it through how you live your life, through your works. It's very simple. And the other way is basically through Christ, because the religion of Christianity says that it doesn't matter how you live your life. You're never going to live up to the true standard of holiness. It's impossible because you're born a sinner. So you have to find salvation by accepting Christ. That's the only way. Okay? And every other religion says the exact opposite. And not the exact opposite, but says the opposite. So let me demonstrate that for you. So in Judaism, this is from beingjewish.com. It's an article entitled, How Does a Jew Attain Salvation? I'm just reading. I just have a quick blurb. Christianity maintains that all men are doomed to sin and everyone will go to everlasting hell unless they accept Jesus as their Savior. Judaism has always held that we do not need that sort of salvation, for we are not doomed or damned at birth. We are not doomed or fated to sin. Quite the contrary. The Torah says, if you do good, won't there be special privilege? And if you do not do good, sin waits at the door. It lusts after you, but you can dominate it. In other words, you can do good, and if you do, things will be better for you. If you do not do good, sin wants to be partners with you. But you can control sin, you can control your evil desires, and you can be good. So we have free will, and that is what Judaism has always believed, because that is what the Torah teaches. The Torah does not teach or even mention that we are born in sin, that we are fated to sin. Just the opposite. We have the ability to choose. Okay, so that clearly states that if you decide in your life to be a good person, that's all you need to do. So you'll be fine. Okay, moving on. Islam. Islam is submission to God, where at the end all your good deeds are weighed against the bad. Now, this is from onislam.net. This is a blurb. Remember that Islam is perfect and people aren't. God created mankind, the jinn, and the angels. Jinn are demons. The angels are perfect and make no mistakes and obey God's every command. But we as humans do make mistakes and commit bad deeds. We can repent with sincerity, and we hope in God's forgiveness through repentance and making good deeds. Good deeds are so important to Islam. Helping others and presenting the real image of Islam as peaceful and beautiful are highly recommended. Now, this is key. On the day of judgment, each person's deeds will be weighed on a scale, and if the good deeds outweigh the bad, God has promised us paradise. Okay, so again, it's how you live your life. If you do more good deeds than bad deeds, well then God, Allah, will give you paradise. Okay, so again, totally opposite from Christianity. Okay, so we just established that. Judaism, Islam, you cannot achieve salvation. You do not need God to provide you salvation. You can do it on your own through how you live your lives. Okay, moving on to Hinduism. Now, in the Meaning of Life episodes 1 and 2, part 2, I discussed Hinduism and the purpose of life in Hinduism. It's broken up into 4 stages. The fourth and final stage is basically the whole ultimate purpose, which is in Hinduism called moksha. Salvation for a Hindu is called moksha. Moksha is when an enlightened human being is freed from the cycle of life and death, the endless cycle of birth, death, and reincarnation. and comes into a state of completeness. He then becomes one with God. Now this, again, this is key. Remember these statements. He becomes one with God in Hinduism. There are four ways to obtain moksha. And I don't really have to get into them, but I'll briefly just go through them here. The way of action, that involves adhering to certain religious ceremonies, commitments, duties, rites. The way of knowledge, this requires using your mind and philosophy to come to a complete comprehension of the universe. The way of devotion, salvation is reached through acts of worship. Again, it's all things that you do. You have to obtain the right knowledge. You have to do the right things in action. You have to worship properly. The royal road, the use of meditation and yoga techniques. Remember all these things, okay? Number 4, in the fourth way to achieve moksha is through meditation and yoga techniques. Please keep this in your mind, okay? This method of reaching salvation is typically only used by wandering monks. Yeah, right. It's used by like everyone now, right? At the gym. Each of these ways to salvation in Hinduism requires that a person do certain things. Salvation is through what a Hindu does. It is through human works. Okay, this is directly from another website. I don't have the actual website here, but this was online. This is, you know, their words. Okay, so it's through works. So that's, once again, demonstrated clearly. Now, I added a few notes here. Karmic debts are paid or accumulated in each life. This is directly from Hinduism, right? So it's all about burning off your bad karma. Okay, so if you, which gave rise to the caste system in India, okay, because if you were a bad person in one life, well, then you come into existence in a lower life form, they see it as, which is why they had the society broken up into different castes. And if you're born into the untouchable class, well, that's where you stayed because that's what you deserve because you were a crappy person in your previous life, right? They also believe that souls can be incarnated, come into existence as animals, birds, insects, everything. You know, everything that's alive, the soul in Hinduism. Please keep this in mind. Okay? So what they're saying is that if a soul comes into existence as a bird, right? That's a really low life form. Okay? So as an animal, you're not collecting karma, is what they're saying. So they say that souls passing through a lower species do not create new karma. But once a soul has reached the human stage, so you're working your way up to humans, and then once you're a human, you stay a human. Okay, but if you're a bad human, again, you can go and you can be someone who deserves a crappy life, right, in Hinduism, right, in the untouchable class. Okay, so this is really how it works. Again, salvation is achieved through your works because, again, moksha is finally breaking free from samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, and then uniting with God. And again, in Hinduism, as I mentioned in part 2 of the meaning of life, the Hindu god, Brahman, it really is ineffable, meaning it's too grand, magnanimous, or great to be described in words. Totally far removed from the human experience. We can't really comprehend God in Hinduism. It's an impersonal God. Okay? So again, the goal is to burn through your karma, do all these good things, become a great person, evolve spiritually. You're constantly evolving from one life to the next, okay? Now, again, retain that in your mind for this. Okay. Now, Kabbalah. Most people don't have much exposure to Kabbalah. Okay, it was like, I remember a few years ago, it was a hip thing in Hollywood. Everybody, Madonna would join the Kabbalah Center, and I think Ashton Kutcher, and they're all wearing the red bracelets, and they're all Kabbalah, right? Okay, ask yourself, what's going on there? Now, what is Kabbalah? Kabbalah is a set of esoteric teachings meant to explain the relationship between an unchanging, eternal, and mysterious infinity and the mortal and finite universe, God's creation. While it is heavily used by some denominations, it is not a religious denomination in itself. It forms the foundations of mystical religious interpretation. Kabbalah seeks to define the nature of the universe and the human being. It's a religion, basically. They're saying it's not a religion, but what is it doing? It seeks to define the nature of the universe and the human being, the nature and purpose of existence, and various other ontological questions. Ontology is basically the study of existence. So it is a religion. They can call it something else, but it is a religion. Okay, and it's very cryptic because you're not exposed to Kabbalah on a mainstream level, but there are outlets for it. So I found a series of books. There's a man named Michael Laitman, Dr. Michael Laitman, PhD, and he's written 30 books on Kabbalah, and I have a few of them, and they're all in digital form. But I've cut and pasted some passages that are very sort of relevant to this discussion here. So first of all, let me introduce Laitman. Laitman is an international authority on authentic Kabbalah. His background is highly unusual for one renowned in the spiritual. He was educated in the sciences, holds an MS in biocybernetics. He has pursued a successful scientific career, later turning to Kabbalah to further his scientific research. Okay, he received his PhD in philosophy and Kabbalah from the Moscow Institute of Philosophy at the Russian Academy of Sciences. Now, what's so interesting is that Kabbalah is very connected to what's the theories of quantum mechanics today. And what's so interesting and what's so coincidental about this and about this happening right now is that I actually, when I was preparing for this, I was drawing from one of his books, or a couple of his books. One of them called, what's it called? Kabbalah Revealed. And there's a foreword written by a guy named Dr. Irvin Laszlo. What is so interesting and coincidental about this is I met Dr. Irvin Laszlo and interviewed this guy for a news organization on quantum mechanics and quantum theory. I was basically asking him questions and having him break down quantum theory for the lay person. I mean, like, and it just makes so much sense that he wrote the foreword for this book. I mean, it's just like my mind is blown. Anyway, so moving on to Kabbalah. So I just want to sort of demonstrate and emphasize how closely related all of these esoteric beliefs are, right? And I would definitely categorize the whole theory within quantum physics and quantum mechanics relating to human existence as an esoteric belief. Beliefs. They are esoteric beliefs. Okay? So let me just read a few passages from Kabbalah Revealed real quickly, okay? Kabbalists refer to the designer of the master plan as the creator, okay? As the creator. You've heard that, okay, I know you've heard that term. You've heard the term source creator. I covered this in the Meaning of Life when I dealt with the sort of the new age behind the law of attraction movement, okay? And to the plan itself as the thought of creation. In other words, and this is important, when Kabbalists talk about nature or nature's laws, they are talking about the creator. Okay, so it's bordering along nature worship, but it's not. And vice versa, when they are talking about the creator, they're talking about nature or nature's laws. These terms are synonymous. To a Kabbalist, the term creator does not signify a supernatural distinct entity, but the next degree that a human being should reach when pursuing higher knowledge. Again, humans are in pursuit of higher knowledge. They are progressing up a ladder of degrees. Okay? It's just clearly stated right here, okay? Kabbalah. Okay, the Hebrew word for creator is borei and contains two words, bo, come, and re, see. Thus the word creator is the personal invitation to experience the spiritual world. Okay? Keep this in your mind. Thus the word creator is a personal invitation to experience the spiritual world, I guess from a physical, earthly existence. Okay? Kabbalah made its debut about 5,000 years ago in Mesopotamia, an ancient country in today's Iraq. Mesopotamia was not only the birthplace of Kabbalah, but of all ancient teachings and mysticism. In those days, People believed in many different teachings, often following more than one teaching at a time. Okay, and this is key here. Astrology, fortune-telling, numerology, magic, witchcraft, spells, evil eye, these are his words. All those and more were developed and thrived in Mesopotamia, the cultural center of the ancient world. And then he kind of recaps here. Kabbalah tells us that nature, which is synonymous with the Creator, is whole, altruistic, and united. Okay, so the Creator, nature, all of it, this is key, is whole, altruistic, and united. Okay, where everything is in unity, union, united, and it is all altruistic. Okay, please retain this in your mind. Okay, I keep saying that over and over again, but it's so important. Okay, so no matter what, right? The nature, the universe, it's all like altruistic. Kabbalah also tells us that by doing so, we will not, and by doing so, I skipped a sentence. It tells us that we must not only understand nature, but we must also want to implement this manner of existence within ourselves. So we are looking to be united. We are looking to be altruistic and whole. By doing so, we will not only equalize with nature, we will understand the thought that stands behind it, the master plan. We will finally get it. And by understanding the master plan, this is so important. Remember this. We will become equal to the master planner. And that is the purpose of creation, to equalize with the Creator. Okay? Okay. So we're ascending up this ladder of degrees. Okay? We're obtaining more and more knowledge. And ultimately, at the end, we are one with the Creator. We are equalizing. This is His word. We are becoming equal to the Creator. Okay, now if you're calling the Creator God, well then you are now equal to God at the top of the food chain, at the top of the mountain. Okay, please, now keep this in your mind. Kabbalah, now he says it made its debut 5,000 years ago, but he also says that that's not where Kabbalah originated, but he doesn't explain where Kabbalah originated. I mean, I don't know. I have like a few of his books. He doesn't just come out and spell it. He could have just said it right in that passage. He could have said, look, Kabbalah came out 5,000 years ago in Mesopotamia. It did not originate there, though. It originated blah, 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 blah. But he doesn't do that. Okay? Now, moving on. Things evolve from above downward, from spiritual to corporal, and not the other way around. In practical terms, it means that our world is created and governed by the spiritual world. Now, I chose this passage because I'm kind of drawing from different parts of the book. But the reason I included that is because that basically coincides with the whole concept of as above, so below in Satanism. Okay? So as above in the heavens, so below. So that's what he's saying. In practical terms, it means that our world is created and governed by the spiritual world. Moreover, there's not a single event in our world that doesn't happen up there first, and the only difference between our world and the spiritual world is that events in the spiritual world reflect altruistic intentions, and events in our world reflect egoistic intentions. Now, that is so important. Please, again, remember that. Egoistic intentions. And I bring this up because I brought up Eckhart Tolle in The Meaning of Life Part 2. And Eckhart Tolle, what is he all about? He's all about living in the moment, right? Forgetting your past, not thinking about the future. You're savoring every moment in the present, every nanosecond that you are experiencing at the time. You need to savor that and observe everything and really appreciate it all. That's the key to happiness. And removing your ego, right? Doing everything you can to destroy your ego because as he talks about, vanity and pride, this is Eckhart Tolle, are what most of us tend to think of when we think of ego. But ego is much more than an overinflated sense of self. One way to think about ego is as a protective heavy shell, such as the kind some animals have, like a big beetle. This protective shell works like armor to cut you off from other people in the outside world. It's separating you, your ego. The ego likes to emphasize the otherness of others. This sense of separation is an intrinsic part of the ego. The trick, of course, is to work to free ourselves from this armor and from this voice that is dictating reality, okay? So, again, obviously, and I did mention this because I did mention how Eckhart Tolle stated that he is drawing from all kinds of religions. He's drawing from Hinduism, Sufism, Buddhism, Christianity. You know, he's kind of twisting it all into this Eckhart Tolle religion soup, and giving you this, you know, and instructing you to sort of be this zombie, right? This expressionless, emotionless, perpetually happy because you're savoring every moment, even the bad stuff. It's still like, I'm going to savor that, and you're a zombie, right? So getting back to Kabbalah. Okay, I'm just going to keep reading. Because of this cascading structure of the world, our world is called the world of results, of spiritual processes and occurrences. Whatever we do here has no impact of any kind on the spiritual world. Whatever we do here has no impact of any kind on the spiritual world. Therefore, if we want to change anything in our world, we have to first climb to the spiritual world, the control room of our world, and affect our world from there. So in order to create any lasting change, you have to have you have to climb into the spiritual world. Okay, Kabbalah is instructing you to do that according to the premier authority on Kabbalah, right? He's written 30 books. The human phase, which corresponds to the speaking level of the spiritual pyramid, has only been around for the past 40,000 years or so. When humanity completes its evolution of the fourth and last phase, evolution will be complete and humanity will reunite with the Creator. Okay. Again, this is I have this passage here for a reason. It totally relates to what we're going to talk about later. So again, remember all these things. I'm just so they're in your mind. We're now closing up this cycle, right? And we're going to be moving into this new cycle, according to the ancient religion of Kabbalah. The fourth phase began some 5,000 years ago when the point in the heart first appeared. As in the spiritual world, the name of the man who first experienced this point was Adam. He was Adam ha-Rishon, the first man. The name Adam comes from the Hebrew words Adame la Elyon. I will be like the upper one. I will be like the upper one. Okay? This is so common to the salvation through works religions. Okay? They may have all these separate terms and even like concepts. But again, this is like the common denominator. I will be like the other one. Apotheosis, which is the ascension of man into godhood. You are working your way up through the degrees, through the knowledge you obtain, through the things that you do, the deeds that you do, and eventually you will reach this state of godhood, apotheosis. These days, at the start of the 21st century, evolution is completing its development of the fourth phase, the desire to be like the Creator. This is why today more and more people are looking for spiritual answers to their questions. This is from Kabbalah Revealed, Dr. Michael Laitman. Just as we don't forget our childhood but rely on those past events and our present experiences, each completed step in the evolutionary process is not lost. Each completed step in the evolutionary process is not lost, but is registered in our unconscious spiritual memory. Also, I mentioned this again in the Meaning of Life episodes. I'm not sure which one, but I was talking about Irvin Laszlo. I don't think I mentioned his name, but I did mention a quantum physicist. He really does believe in the Akashic record, okay? So he believes there is a record on this astral plane that is recording all of our thoughts, all the events, everything, all of our emotions. It's all up. It's all being registered in the Akashic record, right? He believes that. Just as we don't forget our childhood, but rely on those past events and our present experiences. I just read that. Okay. In other words, within us lies the entire history of our spiritual evolution, from the time we were one with the thought of creation to this day. So we were once one, we are now separate. Our egos are in the way of that. Our low spiritual development is also in the way of that, and we are working our way back to unite with the Creator. All right. I have a couple more passages, a few more. And this is from another book by Dr. Michael Reitman. It's called Kabbalah, Science, and the Meaning of Life. It says, at the end of all of our physical incarnations in this world, our souls will reach the degree of the Creator. Okay, obviously Kabbalah believes in reincarnation, right? Okay, I'm just establishing these things so they're in your mind, okay? At the end of all of our physical incarnations, so we all have multiple physical incarnations. This process is similar to any other gradual process in reality. It's a gradual evolution. From the Creator's point of view, the beginning of the process and its end are at the same point. But while there is no concept of time for the Creator, for us the process extends over millennia, a long enough period for us to acquire the necessary insights and qualities to evolve. Okay, again, I'm just emphasizing here that just like Hinduism and Buddhism, Kabbalah is all about spiritual evolution. Okay, Kabbalah dates back. Hinduism has been said to is believed to be one of the world's oldest religions. Okay, that is basically like that's how it's defined when they discuss Hinduism online, like on Wikipedia even they characterize it as one of the world's oldest religions. It's been around, basically this whole time. Kabbalah also dates back just as long. Okay, and I bring this up because it's so relevant to what we're going to be discussing. Okay, so this will help us. So these insights and qualities help us gradually become more Creator-like and to ultimately become equal partners with the Creator. He just kind of emphasizes it. He just repeats himself a lot, actually, in these books. I've noticed that. All right, so, now this is the Kabbalah on Suffering, and this is from another book called The Path of Kabbalah. What does it mean to suffer? Anything that is against our desire makes us suffer. It is written in the Talmud that if a person wants to take a certain coin out of his pocket but brings out a different coin, he already suffers. Anything in life that does not match our desire perfectly causes us to suffer. This coincides almost directly with Buddhism, right? Life is suffering because of our desires. It's right here. Any bad mood, disease, or lack of motivation to do this or that thing is interpreted by us as suffering. But this is key, but everything that happens actually happens in our favor. Everything promotes us one way or another toward the purpose of creation. It is just that our distorted feelings portray the good as bad, the sweet as bitter. Pure goodness can only be felt above the barrier, but for the time being, everything is interpreted as pain. It happens because the light still cannot fill the soul before the desire acquires an altruistic aim, and that is suitable for the light, consequently leaving the light outside. Okay, so in the end, even though we suffer a lot, because a lot of the time we do not get what we desire, right? Everything that happens to us is good for our ascension through the degrees, for our spiritual evolution, right? We just can't see that, but we'll see that eventually once we reach the precipice, once we reach the top and become Creator-like. Okay, Kabbalah on death. Death is not something tragic. It is just a transition to a different state. It is though certain obstructions that his body presented before him are removed, and he passes to a more perfect and complete state with an improved ability for spiritual progress. Okay, again, this is so key. Okay, so when you die, you're actually in a better position to make spiritual progress, according to Kabbalah. It turns out that death is something that one can only be happy for. These are his words. It turns out that death is something that only one can be happy for in Kabbalah. Death indicates you're on the right path for spiritual progress and have already completed a certain portion of the way. Okay, so I guess, you've completed all the things you were supposed to do in this physical incarnation, right? So now you're dead, and that's a good thing because you can move on to the next level. Okay, and then Kabbalah on spiritual understanding. One comes by spiritual understanding only through his own spiritual efforts in studying the wisdom of Kabbalah and a persistent struggle with his egoistic desires. You're constantly looking to stifle your ego. It was the key to spiritual elevation. Moreover, there is not a single event in our world that doesn't happen up there first, in the spiritual realm first. And the only difference, again, this is sort of re-emphasizing it, and the only difference between our world and the spiritual world is that events in the spiritual world reflect altruistic intentions, and events in our world reflect egoistic intentions. Okay, so no matter what, everything coming from the spiritual world is altruistic. Okay, love, right? Full of love. Everything on the other side is just love and goodness, philanthropy. Okay, we are the evil ones here, right? The evil exists on the physical plane. Whereas over there, it's all goodness. Okay, now a couple more passages here from Kabbalah. So, Kabbalah on connectedness. We are all created as one, Kli, spelled K-L-I, or vessel, called Adam HaRishon, the first man. We are tied together in that vessel as parts of a single system. To enable the Kli to correct, the spiritual structure of Adam HaRishon has shattered into numerous particles. So we were once one, okay, but now that's been shattered into all of us being separated by our egos, separated by our lack of spiritual evolution. So we're all at different levels now. We're separate. But we're not really. These particles are the individual souls that clothe our bodies in this world. The result of the shattering is that each person is confined to his or her egoistic desires, oblivious to others, and feeling only oneself. Today, after a long evolutionary period, people are beginning to feel their points in their hearts, the points that drive them to reconnect with the upper force to search for spirituality. At this stage, we must obtain the strength to overcome our egoism and transcend it. Again, saying the same thing over and over again, right? Evolve spiritually, transcend your ego, become one with the Creator. We all become one again. At this stage, we must obtain the strength to overcome our egoism and transcend. Okay, I just read that. Since we will be able to connect the upper force and draw near it only to the extent that we equalize with it. That is the goal. Equalizing with the Creator. Becoming God-like, equal to the Creator. The way for us to connect with the upper force is for those who share the same spiritual goal to join together. Although each of them is subjugated to their individual will to receive, they all wish to transcend it. Such a social environment is defined as a spiritual environment. With it, one can break the wall that separates him or her from others. Okay, and finally here, Kabbalah on uniting with nature. We unite with nature. Okay, and the reason, there's a reason I have this here. So when we unite with nature, we feel as eternal and complete as nature. In that state, even when our bodies die, we will feel that we continue to exist in the eternal nature. Physical life and death will no longer affect us because our previous self-centered perception will have been replaced with a whole altruistic perception. Our own lives will have become the life of the whole nature. And this is key because, again, remarkably similar to Hinduism and Buddhism. The reason Buddhists meditate, right, and I explained this in the Meaning of Life section. I actually meditated once at a Shinto Buddhist temple for a class. And the whole purpose is to empty your mind and become one with your environment, right? So you become one with everything else that exists. So you're not thinking, your ego is gone. It all relates to each other. Same thing in Hinduism. Okay, so you can see how in these salvation by works religions, right, there are many common denominators. Evolution through the stages of spiritual progress, ascension towards godhood, Basically, in death, death is actually something to look forward to, because it's an indicator that you're moving in the right direction. You've completed everything you've needed to complete in this quote-unquote physical incarnation. And there are multiple physical incarnations, right? Reincarnation is reality. Now, I want to read from the Bible. And again, I'm not trying to insult your intelligence here. I just want to have all this. This is how, right now, this format is working for me. I feel like it's a good format to present information, so this is why I'm doing it. So I'm reading from the Garden of Eden. This is Genesis chapter 3, the English Standard Version. And you've heard this a million times, okay, but I'm just going to read it. The fall. Verse 3. Now the serpent was more crafty than any other beast of the field that the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Did God actually say you shall not eat of any tree in the garden?" And the woman said to the serpent, "We may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden, but God said, you shall not eat of the fruit of the tree that is in the midst of the garden, neither shall you touch it, lest you die." But the serpent said to the woman, "You will not surely die. For God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired, and to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. She also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate. Then the eyes of both were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loincloths. Okay, so what happened? And okay, basically, I'm just, to get the point across, right? The serpent lied to her. It was a lie. The first lie. Right? Eat of this tree that you were instructed not to eat of, and you will be like God. You will not surely die. What does that mean? You will never die. You will live forever. Okay, so again, what I'm demonstrating here is that there are basically only two opposing forces here in our system of understanding, in this, whatever you want to call this, right? Our world, our set of beliefs, this, whatever we're existing in right now. There are two completely diametrically opposed forces that are going head to head. Salvation through works or salvation through Christ. Okay, and now what this show is basically going to be about three people that I've done some research on, right? And they're all connecting with the divine. They're having spiritual experiences. Now, the atheists would argue that this is all BS, right? It's not really happening. It wouldn't even they wouldn't even think to look into it. I think there's more going on over there, but superficially, that's how it would seem. Okay, these three people are making quite an impact on people's lives. Right? They're changing the way people think in a very grand way, especially one of them. Okay, so now I've got three people here, all connecting with the spirit, with the divine. They're using three different methods. Okay, the first one is Dr. Brian Weiss. I'm sure you've heard of him. He's super famous now. He's been on Oprah. He's just super successful. And he's using the technique of past life regression as therapy. Okay, the second one is a woman named Dr. Annie Kagan. Okay, and she's basically engaging in necromancy. Now, necromancy is the process of talking to spirits of dead people. That's what it is. She claims, and has written a book, I think she's written multiple books now, that she is conversing regularly with her dead brother, Billy. Okay, and she's got a lot to say about the other side from what Billy, quote-unquote, Billy has told her. Okay, and she's featured on different shows, and I have clips. I have clips of all this stuff. And then there's Sherry Cortland, and she's using a technique called automatic writing. And she'll define it for you. I have a clip of her defining that. Automatic writing is basically clearing your mind so you can have the spirits connect with you in your mind, and they are actually, so you have a pen and paper out, and they're writing for you, right? So she's channeling entities, multiple entities she's channeling, and she'll explain it. I have clips. She's channeling multiple entities through her, and they're writing books. Okay? Now, before we get into... So what I'm going to show you here is that through these three different techniques, they're all receiving virtually the same information. Okay? From past life regression to necromancy to automatic writing. And past life regression is basically hypnotizing someone so they can regress into their past lives. Okay? Now, before we move on, let me just read what... there are many verses in the Bible about what the Christian God thinks of all this stuff. But I have two here just to get the point across. Okay? So in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 18, verses 10 through 12, it says, "There shall not be found among you anyone who makes his son or his daughter pass through fire, one who uses divination, one who practices witchcraft, or one who interprets omens, or a sorcerer, or one who can cast a spell, or a medium, or a spiritist, or one who calls up the dead. For whoever does these things is detestable to the Lord, and because of these detestable things, the Lord your God will drive them out before you." In Leviticus chapter 19, verse 31, "Do not turn to mediums or spiritists. Do not seek them out to be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God." Okay, so clearly the Bible, again, says, there are two diametrically opposed forces here. The Bible is saying, do not talk to dead people. Do not engage in these practices, witchcraft, fortune-telling, astrology, numerology, all these things. And yet, Kabbalah endorses these things, right? Kabbalah is calling for you to have spiritual experiences because you cannot create change in the physical unless you have change in the spiritual, right? So it's totally opposite. Totally opposite. Okay. Now let me introduce Brian Weiss. Brian Weiss is an American psychiatrist. His research includes reincarnation, past life regression, future life progression, and the survival of the human soul after death. As a traditional psychotherapist, Dr. Brian Weiss was astonished and skeptical when one of his patients began recalling past life traumas that seemed to hold the key to her recurring nightmares and anxiety attacks. His skepticism was eroded, however, when she began to channel messages from the space between lives, which contained remarkable revelations about Dr. Weiss's family and his dead son. Using past life therapy, he was able to cure the patient and embark on a new, more meaningful phase of his own career. A graduate of Columbia University and Yale Medical School, Brian L. Weiss, M.D., is the chairman of Emeritus of Psychiatry at the Mount Sinai Medical Center in Miami. Dr. Weiss conducts national and international seminars and experimental workshops as well as training programs for professionals. Now, let me define past life regression for you. Past life regression is a technique that uses hypnosis to recover what practitioners believe are memories of past lives or incarnations though others regard them as fantasies or delusions or a type of confabulation. Past life regression is typically undertaken either in pursuit of spiritual experience or in a psychotherapeutic setting. Most advocates loosely adhere to beliefs about reincarnation, though religious traditions that incorporate reincarnation generally do not include the idea of repressed memories of past lives. I'd say that's an understatement, okay? Most advocates totally adhere to beliefs about reincarnation. Okay, they don't loosely adhere to beliefs about reincarnation. Okay, so this first happened with his patient named Catherine, and the first book that came out in 1988 called Many Lives, Many Masters. I remember reading that book as a young person and just being absolutely mesmerized and enthralled. I mean, it just blew my mind, and I was so taken and convinced that I actually, for the first time in my life, I felt like I had to pass this book on to somebody else to read it, right? Because I wanted to do them a favor, you know? I mean, shocking. But so and I'm sure it's made just as much of an impact on other people. It has. That's just the reality. Okay, so now what I did was I basically pulled some quotes. Now I have quotes from Many Lives, Many Masters, and then I have some clips of Brian Weiss speaking in an interview, one he did recently. I think it was 2013. And since Many Lives, Many Masters, he's written a multitude of books, right? About soulmates and all about basically what happens when we cross. Like he has worked out this entire religion. It's a religion because basically when you hear him talk, he's talking affirmatively about what happens when you die, why you exist, what everything is like, how all of your decisions are, everything. It encompasses everything. So let me just touch upon a couple of select quotes that I found. I just kind of skimmed through this, I found a version of the book online. So now this is kind of, he's progressed through the book, like what happens in this book, and I'm sure you've even read it. But so he originally tries to regress Catherine back to her childhood, but he ends up going into past lives, and they start exploring her past lives. But then they start exploring the time between each life, right? So Catherine goes from a past life into this period because she'll die during this hypnotic session, and then she'll be in this sort of limbo stage between lives, and she's now communicating with what he calls masters. Okay, and the masters, these higher spiritual beings, now are through Catherine, through these sessions, these trance sessions, are giving Dr. Weiss all these messages about life and the universe. And actually, I have a blurb here from a review on the book from Hinduism.about.com. So you can see Hindus are totally gravitating toward this book, and why wouldn't they, right? But it says, in a series of trance-like states, Catherine recalled past life memories that proved to be the causative factors of her recurring nightmares and anxiety attack symptoms. She remembers living 86 times in a physical state in different places on this earth, both as male and female. She recalled vividly the details of each birth, her name, her family, physical appearance, the landscape, and how she was killed by stabbing, by drowning, or illness. And in each lifetime, she experiences a myriad of events, making progress to fulfill all of the agreements and all of the karmic debts that are owed. Okay, so let's move on to a quote. Now he's talking to one of the masters is coming through, and this master says, this is from the book. Yes, we choose when we will come into our physical state and when we will leave. We know when we have accomplished what we are sent down here to accomplish. We know that when the time is up, you will accept your death. For you know that you can get nothing more out of this lifetime. Coincides completely with Kabbalah, right? For you know that you can get nothing more. You know when you're going to die, that once you've died, you can get nothing more, and it's time to re-energize, so you're allowed re-entry back into the physical state. Those people who hesitate, who are not sure of their return here, they might lose the chance that was given them, a chance to fulfill what they must when they're in the physical state. Okay? And then he writes, immediately after this quote, he writes, this was a master who spoke about death without any hesitation, yet whose voice and thoughts were steeped with love. Okay? The love felt warm and real, yet detached and universal. It felt blissful, yet not smothering or emotional or binding. It relayed a feeling of loving detachment or detached loving kindness, and it felt distantly familiar. Okay? Again, coincides directly with Kabbalah. The spiritual beings on the other side, right, are altruistic in Lateman's terms. In Dr. Weiss's terms, they are loving and blissful, detached, kind, right? Okay. Now here's another quote from a master. The answer came from the poet master. This is a poet master, right? Patience and timing. Everything comes when it must come. A life cannot be rushed, cannot be worked on a schedule as so many people want it to be. We must accept what comes to us at a given time and not ask for more. But life is endless, so we never die. We were never really born. We just pass through different phases. There is no end. Humans have many dimensions, but time is not as we see time, but rather in lessons that are learned. Okay? Again, we never die. Okay? We pass through different phases. We have to learn our lessons, our karmic lessons, become better and better as we progress up the evolutionary ladder. Okay? It's so right on with everything else we've just discussed. Hinduism, Buddhism. I didn't really touch upon Buddhism. I did in the Meaning of Life section, but Buddhism is very similar to Hinduism. Kabbalah, okay? Good deeds, bad deeds, Islam. Being a good person, Judaism. All right, moving on to a couple of other quotes, and then I'm going to hit his sound bites. All right. Now, the original master, not the poet master. This is a master who has a loud and husky voice. You're correct in assuming that this is the proper treatment for those in the physical state, referring to past life regression therapy. You must eradicate the fears from their minds. It is a waste of time, waste of energy when fear is present. They must not be fearful. He's saying, do not be fearful of past life regression, right? It stifles them from fulfilling what they were sent here to fulfill. Take your cues from your surroundings. They must first be put into a level very, very deep, where they can no longer feel their body. Then you can reach them. Okay. This master is telling Dr. Weiss to put them into a trance-like state so that they can't even feel their bodies. That's when you can reach them. It's only on the surface that the trouble lies. Deep within their soul, where the ideas are created, that is where you must reach them. Deep within their souls, right? The mountains, inside the mountain, it is quiet. It is calm at the center. But on the outside is where the trouble lies, right? Humans can only see the outside, but you can go much deeper. You have to see the volcano. To do it, you have to go deep inside, okay? To be in the physical state is abnormal. When you're in the spiritual state, that is natural to you. When we're sent back, it's like being sent back to something we do not know. It will take us longer. In the spirit world, you will have to wait, and then you're renewed. There's a state of renewal. It's a dimension like the other dimensions, and you've almost succeeded in reaching that state. Okay, he's talking to Dr. Weiss. And then now this master is like playing on Dr. Weiss's ego. He's saying, yes, you know much more than the others. You understand so much more. Be patient with them. They don't have the knowledge that you have. Spirits will be sent back to help you, Dr. Weiss. But you're correct in what you're doing. Continue. Continue with this. Everybody must regress into their past lives, right? This energy must not be wasted. You must get rid of the fear. Get rid of it. Do everything you can. Hurry up. Just get rid of that fear. That will be the greatest weapon you have, okay? I mean, this is diabolical. This is diabolical. Okay? And then this is Dr. Weiss talking now. He says, the fear of death, that hidden constant fear that no amount of money or power can neutralize, this is the core. You're fearing death, people. You can't neutralize that, but you must. But if people knew, and this is Dr. Weiss speaking in his book, but if people knew that life is endless, so we never die, we were never really born, then this fear would dissolve. If you just could accept that. People, accept that. You do not be afraid of past life regression. Come on. I've written all these books. I do all these workshops. You know, we go on cruises. What am I doing? I'm helping you. I'm saving you. Don't be afraid, right? If they only knew that they had lived countless times before and would live countless times again, how reassured they would feel, right? Okay, now, this encompasses everything we've just discussed, okay? Hinduism, Kabbalah, evolutionary ascension, Apotheosis, reuniting with the Creator, all right? Okay, so I got a few more quotes here. Okay, here we go. So now she's another session, right? She's with Catherine. I think this is page 185. Now, a master is now present. Her voice was deep. And the master says, it is on this plane that some souls are allowed to manifest themselves to people who are still in physical form. They're allowed to come back only if they have some agreement unfulfilled. On this plane, intercommunication is allowed between spirits and people. It's allowed, right, on this plane. This is where you're allowed to use your psychic abilities and communicate with people in physical form. There are many ways to do this. Some are allowed to the power of sight and can show themselves to the people still in physical form. Others have the power of movement and are allowed to telepathically move objects. You can only go to this plane if it is useful for you to go there. If you have left an agreement that has not been fulfilled, you may choose to go here and communicate in some way. But that is all to which the agreement must be to this plane. If your life had been abruptly ended, this would be a reason for you to go to this plane. Many people choose to come here because they are allowed to see those who are still in physical form. Okay, basically, what is this master saying? All right, he's saying, on this plane, it's okay for us to talk to you, for us to communicate. Now, let me go back to Leviticus. Do not turn to mediums or spiritists. Do not seek them out to be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. Right? I mean, just realize that this is a reality. Okay? You have all these people who are doing exactly what the Bible is saying not to do, right? And they're even talking to things on the other side that are telling them to do things that the Bible is telling them not to do. Okay? Just realize that. Okay? So, okay. Oh, okay. And now this is the last quote, and then we're going to move on to some sound bites. I'm running out of time. Okay. So, here's another master. Oh no, this is Catherine talking. All is so fast and complicated. What they're telling me about change and growth in different planes. There's a plane of awareness and a plane of transition. We come from one life, and if the lessons are completed, we move on to another dimension, another life. We must understand fully. If we do not, we are not allowed to pass on. We must repeat because we do not learn. We must experience from all the sides. We must know the side of wanting, but also to give. There is so much to know, so many spirits involved. That is why we're here. The masters are just one on this plane. Okay. Now, what is she saying? Exactly what Hinduism is saying, right? About karma, learning, and progressing, right? If you don't, you have to stay. If you don't do what you're supposed to do, right, you have to stay in that same place until you figure it out. Now, this is life and death. I have a little recap here. Life and death according to the masters, right? You choose when you will come to the earth and when you will die. You choose that. God didn't choose it. It's not God's plan. You are making up your own sort of school curriculum. It's your design, right? You choose it. Life is endless. We never die. We're never really born. We pass through different phases. There is no end. Humans have many dimensions, right? To be in the physical state is abnormal, okay? When you're in the spiritual state, that is natural to you. When you're sent back, it's like being sent back to something we do not know. It takes us long, right? Intercommunication between the physical and spiritual is allowed on certain planes, okay? According to the masters. We come from one life, and if lessons aren't completed, we move on to another dimension, right? If the lessons are completed, we move on. We must understand fully. If we do not, we're not allowed to pass on. Okay. We review our lives, right? In the time between lives. Okay, this is important too. We review our lives. We pre-plan our futures, and that's what they call pre-birth planning, right? And then we are reunited with our loved ones in life after life. Everyone's immortal. So when we're reincarnating with the same people, and we're experiencing all these life lessons with the same people, but we're different people in different lives, okay? We evolve as spiritual beings on different planes of existence, okay? We can evolve. I have a clip of Dr. Weiss talking about it. We don't reincarnate just as people, okay? He says that we can come back as animals. He says that we can come back as like aliens on different planets, right? Different beings. He doesn't define them as aliens. He just says as beings on different spiritual planes, okay? This is a reality according to the religion of Dr. Weiss, okay? And then he says, I have another clip. All spiritual beings are nonviolent, okay? They're nonviolent. What is he saying? On the spiritual side, all the beings are good, loving kindness, altruism, right? Just like Kabbalah. And then he also says that we were created from Starseed. Okay? So again, it falls right in line with evolution, right? The chemical reactions in the universe created human life. He says that. I have a clip of it. Now, let's move on to the first clip. This is Dr. Weiss. I just want you to hear him talking about it, okay? Talking about all immortal. We're all immortal, and we plan our lives during the pre-birth planning phase.
When you have a past life, though, you understand, well, here I am, I'm Bob Olson. Well, you are, but this is,
yeah.
Right. I'm Bob Olson. But who was that in that lifetime that I keep going to? That was not Bob Olson. That person had a different body, a different name. But it was still me. So you're that continuing consciousness that is expressing itself, manifesting as Bob Olson now, but you were that other being then. And right. You're the same soul, the same consciousness.
Yeah.
And so you didn't die when that person died. You went to the other side, you learned, you did your afterlife review, you did your pre-birth planning, and here you are back again as Bob.
Yeah, yeah.
And
okay, you heard it from himself. Now here's a clip where Dr. Weiss is talking about how Earth is a hot school, like everybody wants to come here, because everybody was criticizing him, saying, well, if evolution or reincarnation is real, then why is the population exploding, right? And they explain it in the religion of Many Lives, Many Masters. They explain it by saying everybody wants to come here because it's such a great place to learn.
We all know that our population seems to be growing. We hit some new record recently, fairly recently, and so it makes me wonder if having a human life on Earth is like the new big fad for souls up there. Is that kind of what's going on?
In a way, yes. It's become a very hot school, very popular.
Yeah.
That way. I shouldn't say hot anymore with global warming, but I mean popular school. So souls are attracted here because you can accelerate your spiritual progress on the Earth. Again, I'm just talking about my own work.
Okay. You can accelerate your spiritual progress on the Earth because you have physical bodies and all this physical stuff, right? Okay. Now here's a clip where he talks about this end to the cycle. What is the ultimate goal, right, of the purpose of life? What is the purpose of life? And it's basically to end the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, to end samsara.
Eventually we do end when we don't have to come back here anymore. It would be kind of like going through school. And let's say some of us are in the 2nd grade and the 8th and the 5th and high school, but eventually we all graduate and don't have to come back to this school anymore if you consider the Earth a school. So when you graduate, that means you've learned enough of the lessons not to come back here. Maybe there are higher dimensions or levels where we keep learning, evolving along our spiritual progress back home or back to the source or one or God or other concepts that people have talked about ever since the beginnings of humanity.
Right.
And I think...
Oh my God, fall so in line with Kabbalah, right? Right, we're going to reunite with the one, the source, the God, whatever. He doesn't even have a name for it, right? It's just like this generic name, and we evolve on these spiritual planes. We can come back as different kinds of beings. Actually, this is his clip where he's talking about how earlier I totally touched upon the whole idea of Hinduism and how you can reincarnate as animals, whatever. So I just wanted to hit this really quickly.
Do we also reincarnate as other species like animals or even other forms and maybe even in other places, like another universe somewhere? How can you answer that one?
I think all of those things happen. Certainly this is not the only place. Earth is not the only place. So there are other universes and other dimensions, I think physical and non-physical. It gets very complex because cosmologists, these physicists and astronomers and astrophysicists who study universes, they now are writing about universes bubbling up all the time. There being an infinity.
Okay, yeah. So you get the point on that. I really am pressed for time here. So now I just want you to hear him talk about how spiritual beings are nonviolent. Okay.
We have to see if we've really been learning our lessons. These same lessons we've been talking about here: compassion, kindness, love, these kinds of things. And if you're not violent because you remember that you were punished for being violent in the 15th century, that's not good enough.
Yeah.
But if you are non-violent now because you know that deep in your heart violence is wrong, or you know at a deeper level that spiritual beings, and we're all spiritual beings, not physical beings, but spiritual beings. Spiritual beings are not violent, then you've really been learning the lesson. So part of it is a test.
Okay, it's a test. It's a test. We have to learn that spiritual beings are nonviolent. Now, this is Dr. Brian Weiss saying that we are all Starseed.
Our listeners who are interested in extraterrestrial or out there in the cosmos, I remember something about, is it in Same Souls, Many Bodies, where you have done some work with people who have come from other galaxies. Could you share with our listeners about that?
Yes, this happens from time to time also. And you're right, this is from a previous book, Same Soul, Many Bodies. Even though in miracles happen, there are always more cases of this sort. But I remember one young man that I was seeing in therapy. So this was a one-to-one session, not from a group. And he, Patrick is his name, he during a past life memory, went way back and went back about 60,000 years. Now, usually when someone goes that far back in the earth, we think of it as this is going to be very primitive, maybe an Aboriginal type of thing in Australia or in some place in Africa. But his wasn't. He had come as part of a migration from another star system, and he didn't name it, so I don't have a name for you. But I've had other people who have described similar phenomena. And this, I guess I was trying to remember now, where he lived or his people lived, it was not a healthy situation. It was declining, the atmosphere, and they came to the earth because it was somewhat similar in composition. And these had bodies, these people that were similar to humans, but they weren't.
Okay, I don't have time to play the whole thing, but basically she asked him, well, so did they seed the planet? And he said, no, the planet was already seeded by then, hundreds of thousands of years ago. Okay, so some other life force seeded the earth. Okay, this is the religion of many lives, many masters. Okay, now I'm going to move on. Now I want you to, before I do that, I want to just touch on one last thing and emphasize one last thing. How did he get this woman, Catherine, to connect with the masters? He put her in a trance-like state, right, where she is just totally like, out, right? She's hypnotized. She's like, blah, 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 blah. She's like on the couch, right? Totally in the dark. It's not Catherine's mind. Something else is coming through, okay? It's basically inducing meditation, okay? Now, moving on. Dr. Annie Kagan, okay, she is not a medium or psychic. She did not die and come back to life. In fact, when she was awakened by her deceased brother, she thought perhaps she had gone a little crazy. Prior to this, Annie was a successful chiropractor and a songwriter who abandoned her hectic lifestyle in Manhattan in search of serenity in a small, secluded house by the bay. This is when her brother, Billy, died unexpectedly and began speaking to her from the afterlife, upon which she agreed to accompany him on his journey through the mysteries of death. As Billy reaches out from the other side to change his sister's life and the lives of others around her, she shares secrets about the bliss and wonder that come in the afterlife. Okay, the reason this story was so interesting to me, because I remember coming across this story years ago, actually, and it made an imprint. Because what was so interesting about it, and she doesn't, when she describes why Billy dies, she now in the later years, she omits some stuff about it. So basically, Billy was a lifelong drug addict, okay, lived his life to the point where he was 62 years old and he was homeless. And the only way he was staying alive, basically, was because her husband now was giving him money. Okay, so he was on the verge of death, basically, starvation, right? Because her husband was picking up the slack. And basically I have a clip of her talking about it. I don't know if I'll play it. But she says in this interview that I have clips from, she says at that point she couldn't take care of Billy anymore. It was making her sick. Okay, so this Billy guy was ruining other people's lives, was mooching off everybody else to satisfy his drug addictions, and was on the verge of homelessness. And the way he died was basically they were checking him into a rehab center. And again, she omits this because she's realized it's hard to gain sympathy for her story when you really talk about who this guy Billy was. In my mind, that's the truth. So what happened was Billy was at the rehab center. They were checking him in. He's arguing with this woman at the reception desk at this rehab center, right? He's yelling and screaming and cursing at her. He runs out into the street, right? He runs to the front door, and he runs out into the street, and he gets hit by a car, and he dies. That's how he dies, okay? And then after that, she says a few weeks later that this guy came through. Now, let me play the clip. She's going to explain it to you.
What happened was my brother was unexpectedly hit by a car and killed. And I was completely grief-stricken, barely get out of bed. And then 3 weeks after he died, it was my birthday. And I was sunrise, and I was waking up, and all of a sudden I hear Billy talking to me, like as if there were a hole in my ceiling. And I heard him outside of my head very clearly going, Annie, Billy, get up. And I'm like, half asleep, and I'm going, oh, God, I must be dreaming, Billy, because, you can't be here. You're dead. And then he said, no, I'm here. Get up, get a notebook. And when I got out of bed and got a notebook and went back and started writing what he was saying, I knew that I was awake because I was moving around. Right. And then the first thing he did was assure me that he was really wonderful, nothing painful for him because he had been hit by a car, and so that was very traumatic. Yeah. And, when someone dies violently, you have a lot of concern. So he said, no, as soon as he was hit by the car, he didn't feel pain. He was drawn up a beautiful chamber of silver lights that healed all the pain he had suffered in his entire life. And that he went up the chamber, he saw my dad in the chamber who was joking around with him, which would be what my father would do
okay.
on the other side. And that he was born into a divine universe where the light had characteristics of compassion and kindness and love and understanding, and he was drifting through these beautiful galaxies. And then he said, Annie, in his bad boy way, death is really unbelievable. Actually, it couldn't be better. So don't take death so seriously. And remember, we will meet again.
Okay, so again, right, you can see now. I hope this is all kind of like the light bulb is going off. This is exactly in line what we've just been discussing when it comes to Kabbalah, Hinduism, the religion of many lives, many masters, right? So this guy, right, he dies, he's a drug addict, he's a terrible person, right? He gets killed because he's like doesn't want to be in the rehab center, right? And he's a drug addict, he's homeless. But what happens when he dies? He goes off into this beautiful place. He sees his father, right? You see your loved ones, you interact and you do all these things. You see all these wonderful things, these loving beings. It's all love. Okay, and it's amazing. Death is amazing. Okay, now this is Annie Kagan talking about meditation. How this is how she communicates with Billy. This is how she gets into that receptive state.
Were you ever did you ever consider yourself a psychic or a medium before? Had you ever taken any kind of classes to be a psychic or medium?
No, just meditation. But I was talking to an expert in the field the other day. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know Margaret Wendt, who was on TV, and she knew George Anderson. We were talking a little bit about, why this happened to me.
Yep.
And I realized that I've been dealing with invisible and energy.
Okay. I'm not going to play the whole clip, but she basically says that she was a musician, so she's dealing with invisible vibrations, and she made her more sensitive. And she, in another part of the interview, she talks about how when she got into meditation, she was actually meditating 3 hours a day. Okay? So she's not a channeler. She's not a medium. She's not a psychic. She's just constantly putting herself into this meditative state. She's meditating 3 hours a day. Okay? Now, this is her talking about death being a doorway. Billy is describing how death is a doorway. Now, in Kabbalah, what do we talk about? Death is this... You're in a better state to spiritually progress in death, right? It's actually better than life, okay? It's a doorway into another dimension, basically what she's talking about here.
Now, here's the thing. How, when Billy started talking with you, describe for our listeners how that really had an effect on your life.
Well, Daniel, at first I thought maybe I was kind of going a little crazy, that somehow the grief... had made me imagine my brother speaking to me. But one of the things that I document in the book is how Billy went about proving to me over and over again that he was actually real. And he did this by giving me what's called evidentiary after-death communications, which means he gives me information that I couldn't possibly know that turns out to be true every time. And through time, as he gave me these proofs, I began to understand that I was really communicating with my brother in another dimension,
And once you realize that death is a doorway and that there are other dimensions and that we're eternal beings right now and that we really do have a soul, it shakes up everything you believe about life and death and who we are, and it changes your life.
Okay, we're eternal beings, okay? Death is a doorway. Eternal beings, death is a doorway. We never die, okay? And now here's a clip.
Well, people often ask me why, when I hear my brother talking to me, why I wasn't scared, but his voice carried the incredible bliss and love and wonder of the dimension he was in. So there really was no room for fear. And he said that, death is really incredible. It couldn't be better, that, there are higher beings there. At first he couldn't see the higher beings, but later he could. And that it's a place really beyond anything that the human being can imagine. Because
okay, death is amazing, eternal, higher beings, right? The masters are there, and you progress to different levels. And basically, the journey of Billy and Annie is basically Billy is progressing through these levels. And what she mentions at another point in the interview is she says, when Billy first arrived, he said, "Hey, Annie, it's me. Grab a notebook." Okay, so the first thing that this Billy said to her was, "Start writing this stuff down." Right? They wanted to get this information out. Right? Write a book. Hurry up. Write a book. Okay? Now, so higher beings, death is eternal, souls are eternal, death is amazing. Now, here, there's no judgment. Okay? So the guy, at one point in this interview with Bob Olson, you can see it on his face. He's like, what is up with this? There's the look of skepticism is on his face. He can't comprehend that there are no repercussions for this guy's actions in life, right? So he asked her about it.
Did he talk about regrets? Did he, from that side of life, did he talk about regrets at all?
Yes, I regret to say that he didn't have any regrets.
He didn't have any regrets.
It would be nice to be able to say, he was repentant or whatever.
Yeah.
But actually, he says that he kind of... Now, I think that this is one of the differences between near-death experiences and what Billy's reporting.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't have time. I don't have time to play the whole thing, but you get the point. So Billy dies, and everybody's like, "What? There's no review. There's no like remorse for the way he lived his life." No, not at all. Death is amazing. Death is so wonderful. Billy's having such a good time. He gets to see all these beautiful things and meet these beautiful beings and progress up the stages. Okay, there's no judgment. Here's a clip, I think.
And then he says, mistakes are okay. Mm-hmm. We come here to make mistakes, and so many people he says would have really and did judge his life, that he made so many mistakes, but his so-called mistakes were some of the most interesting parts of his life. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the really kind aspects that people come away with is not to be so hard on yourself and not to be so judgmental.
Oh my God, not to be so judgmental. Okay, so what Billy is saying is that it's okay to screw up royally. Okay, you want to go and butcher an entire movie theater? Oh, it's okay. You made a mistake. Don't be so hard on yourself. Okay, you want to exterminate an entire population? You're just making mistakes. It's okay. Okay, now this is Billy. Or this is Annie Kagan talking about how Billy's talking about how you choose your circumstances before you come here.
And that's one of the things that Billy says is you may choose your circumstances before you come here for reasons that are really impossible for the human to understand. Mm-hmm. And we can't really figure it out with our minds. And
okay, so again, this is reinforced over and over again. You are the guide of your evolutionary progress, right? You choose your circumstances. Okay, now I'm going to wrap up this section. Okay, but towards the end, basically, I'm going to play a couple more clips here. But towards the end, the interviewer asks her, was it harder and harder to communicate with Billy as he was progressing through these stages, ascending higher and higher? And she was saying that, like, at one point, Billy was instructing her to engage in guided meditation exercises, right? So this thing that's talking to her from, like, the other side is telling her to meditate and to do, and let me just play it for you.
As the journey went on, he gave me exercises to help balance this world, because, you know, sometimes people tell me, oh, I'm so envious. And I say, you know, that you had this trip, and I'm saying, oh, please don't be envious, because it was very hard, especially at the beginning, because, you know, people who have near-death experiences say it was hard to come back to this realm. But
Okay, again, all this communicating back and forth, meditating, okay? Now, I really have to move on, but I have all these clips I wish I could play for you, but I have to move on. Now, and at the end of this one interview, the interviewer's like, so is there anything you'd like to leave us with, right? What does she say?
I think my favorite thing that Billy has taught me is that every cell in my body was made on a star, in a supernova. Literally, this is not poetry. We're forged from stars, and the same cosmic intelligence that runs the universe beats our heart, breathes our breath, heals our wounds. We're magical cosmic creatures, and
we're magical cosmic creatures, okay? We were made from stars, okay? Like, it's, again, reinforced over and over again. Now, I need to play another clip just to drive the point home. But this is all about, life is all about spiritual evolution. She talks about that in this clip here.
Everything was, like, right in line with everything. And then as I got into the next two-thirds of the book, there were so many things that went in different directions. Very crazy, like what I would consider, wow, that's just crazy, you know, in a positive way. But that even challenged me. You know, I would be like, oh man, you know, that's I don't know, you know. And then I had to keep reminding myself, this is what it's all about. This is what I'm all about. To show people different ideas, different possibilities, so that everyone can make up their own minds. So and so then I started to get excited about the things that Billy had talked about that were very new to me. You know, like very you know, I even might have been skepticism about, but you know, there was a time when I didn't believe in the afterlife. And so there's a lot of new stuff in here that allows people to sort of see things in a different way. And again, we keep repeating this, but it's so important, decide for themselves. You know, if all I did was interviews where everybody was saying the same thing, it would, in one way, it would make people feel very comfortable, right? Oh, it's all the same. Everybody's saying the same thing. And we don't grow that way, you know?
Right, and I think that Billy's talking from levels that maybe haven't been talked about before.
Yeah.
And you know, they're all about evolution. It's all about the soul evolving in ways beyond the superworld. Oh yeah, I think that's really important. Like Billy.
Okay, I should have just had that. You know, I shouldn't have had all that other beginning stuff. But it's evolution of souls beyond the super world or whatever they call it. Okay. So now let's sum this up, because, you know, there's actually one more clip. I'm running out of time, but there's another clip where her husband was sick, and she starts getting this voice from Billy saying, and your husband is sick. And it was like this evil laughter, and she was like all scared because, so it just, and she was like wondering, is this really Billy? And there's this whole other thing about that. But anyway, let's sum this up. Life and death according to Billy. There's no judgment, no regrets about how you live. We're eternal souls. We never die. We're all immortal. Humans need to just be gentler with themselves and not feel guilty about wrong choices. Death is amazing, beyond anything words can describe. Higher beings are on different spiritual planes. You evolve spiritually into higher and higher planes of existence. You choose your own circumstances in life. You're in charge of your evolution. We are made from stardust. We are Starseed. Okay, let's move on. Sherry Cortland. She teaches a series of workshops based on her books and designs crystal, stone, and jewelry. Crystal and stone jewelry. She is a continued student in the field of herbology, which she studied originally under whatever, under Doctor of Naturopathy degree. from naturopathy degree from the Clayton College of Natural Health. Sherry Cortland currently resides in the state of Florida. Sherry Cortland was born in 1957. Through automatic writing, Sherry Cortland channels and shares information communicated by her guide groups in her books and workshops with the express intention of providing tools that you can use to expedite your spiritual growth and complete your to-do list for this incarnation with less drama and pain, and increase your vibrational level and positive energy output to make the completion of the shift easier for everyone in our planet. Okay, so here is Sherry describing what automatic writing is all about. She just defines it for you.
Automatic writing is just one of the ways that we have of communicating with spirit. And for me, it's the best way because everything is written down. You have a written recollection, recording of it, so you don't have to strain your brain trying to remember. And as we get older, that is a very good thing. But basically, to automatic write, all you need to do is just really sit down. I meditate for a couple of minutes, and then I ask for someone to come through. And just kind of, if you're doing it with a pen or pencil and paper, which is how I used to do it, now I use computer, just hold the pencil down to the paper and just wait and ask for someone to write with you, and then they'll come through. It's very important, I think, to ask who you're writing with when an entity does come through. We have the right to know who we're writing with. And when the information comes through.
Okay, so you heard it. She meditates, right? She empties her mind, and the entity comes through. And this is a clip of her naming all her guides, at least for the first book. She has 3 books, and she had 3 different sets of guides. But like we're talking about galactic beings, her grandma and her aunt, stuff like that. Okay.
The only reason that I pursued automatic writing at all is because I was so enamored with Shirley MacLaine and Ruth Montgomery and reading all of these wonderful books and all of this great wisdom, and I so much wanted to find out the truth about why we're here. Why do we have to go through all of these things that we have to go through? And I didn't want to wait for somebody's book to come out. I thought, you know what, automatic writing, sitting down at the kitchen table, let me just do that too. I tried for 3 months to do it. It didn't happen. Finally, it happened one night. I was at a psychic development class, and the teacher said, tonight we're going to do automatic writing. Me and my big mouth said, oh, no, this is never going to happen for me. And as I said that, Spirit grabbed a hold of my hand and started to write. And that was Jeremy. And Jeremy is my main guide for this particular lifetime. And he, after a couple of years of writing with me, and I was writing with several different entities, said, Sherry, it's time to write a book. Did not want to do that because I have a professional career. I was worried about what might happen with that. But off we went. There's no arguing with spirit. Certainly learned about that. And so the first guide group came together. That was a circuitous way to answer your question, but here I am. So Jeremy was the leader, I guess you would say, of that first guide group for Windows of Opportunity. Alexio Porras, who is an entity from Arcturus, also one of my guides, part of that guide group. My grandmother, who is currently on the other side. My cousin Linda, one of my aunts, also.
Oh, my God. Okay. Her cousin Linda, one of her aunts, her grandma, Arteria Porras, Akananda, I think is one of them. Jeremy, okay. Now, what did she just say? As soon as these guides came through, they were like, write a book. You have to write a book. Okay, what did the masters say to Brian Weiss? You need to clear everybody of fear. You're doing the right thing. They can't be afraid of this. You need to do this for everyone. Right? Billy comes in and says, I have a notepad for you. Write this book. Write a book. Right? There's something going on here. Okay. Now here's a clip of about karmic debt.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that this is just our bodies are just a means for us to exist here on this planet in this energy, and it's just a tool. Our bodies are tools for us so that we can learn lessons, have experiences, pay back karmic debt, sometimes create new karmic debt, which is never fun. But it's how we move.
Okay. And this is a clip about how we plan our lives.
Well, I find that the word plan very interesting when they talk about the plan is nearing the end. And because it makes me think, well, what was this plan? Well, we kind of spoken about that, but whose plan was it, and who was supposed to accomplish it? Like, did we make it up the plan ourselves, or was it given to us, or?
I love that question. And I have to tell you, I don't really know the answer to that. I'm going to have to go back and ask. But I do know this. I know that for each one of our individual lifetimes, we do plan what we want to accomplish. So we kind of sit around, picture yourself around a conference table, and all the people that are going to be part of our lifetime, they're going to help us, even our little relationship villains who might cause us trouble, those things that will help us open windows of opportunity, help us move forward, they're all there, and we make a plan for our karmic debt, what we want to repay, our growth experiences. So I know that we have a plan for our individual lives. And then another event is, of course, that together we're all working for something. And as far as I know, it's the continued evolution of the human race. Now, who has set this plan in motion? That is just such an excellent question. I can only think that it's the source who has set it in motion, the source, the creator. But then why? Why is the source or the creator?
The source, the creator. We can all evolve spiritually as a race, right? We plan our lives. We pay back our karmic debt. This is all coming from the same place. Can you not see this? Okay, now plan nearing end, souls evolving. Okay, there's another clip about our souls are evolving. Basically, she writes in her books about how these spirits, right, her guides are all excited because the plan is coming to an end. Right, or like the plan, their plan is coming to an end, and we're all evolving. And she talks about how we're evolving to this 5D Earth, right? We're in 4D Earth. What did we just talk about in the Kabbalah, right? We're ending the fourth phase and moving into the fifth, right? The final stage of evolution to the new Earth, right? And she talks about that. We're moving to the new Earth. I don't know if I'm going to play the clip, but here is a clip of her talking about her galactic being friend, okay? This is who she believes she's talking to.
No, that.
And I never thought that I was going to write books.
Wait, that's not it.
You've mentioned that at least two of your guides are not from around here, should we say, that there are Arcturians, and
yeah.
I would be interested, and I'm sure our viewers would be interested in knowing more about the Arcturians. What can you tell us?
I can tell you a little bit about the Arcturians. Alexio Porath was my first Arcturian guide to come through. And he came through, it was, I'm going to say, maybe around 87, 88. He was one of the first guides. And his energy was so forceful. I was still using pencil and paper back then to do automatic writing. I would break pencil after pencil after pencil when he would come through. And one of the first things that he talked to me about was Arcturus, and Arcturus being a way station. And at the time, I didn't understand what a way station was, and I didn't question him because I didn't realize that we could question spirit back then. Of course, now I'm nothing but questions. But when it comes to Arcturus, what I understand is that it's a place where all souls that are coming to Earth pass through. They pass through the Arcturian energy, and that kind of prepares us for what we're going to encounter here, because coming from the 4D energy on the other side of the veil and then into this, really coming from the light almost into the darkness, so to speak, because we are going to be so blind, it takes a little bit of planning and training.
Okay, whatever, right? Okay. Let me just remind you what a religion is. A religion is an organized collection of beliefs, cultural systems, and worldviews that relate humanity to an order of existence. Many religions have narratives, symbols, and sacred histories that aim to explain the meaning of life and or to explain the origin of life or the universe. Okay? These people are adhering to religion that they're receiving beings. These guys are claiming to be Arcturians from Arcturus, which is a way station for human souls. And the name is Alexa Porat or whatever it is, Anaconda. I mean, can you believe this? And this woman is writing books. She's on her third book, and she's like, changing lives. Okay. Now here's another clip. We're all Starseed. Okay, according to Sherry Cortland and her guides.
Doesn't reincarnation imply that we're not necessarily just incarnating here as humans on Earth that many of us have actually lived ET lives.
Absolutely. You've heard the term starseed, right?
Right.
What is starseed? It's just a soul that has had lifetimes in other dimensions or on other planets. And honestly, I think we're all starseed.
Yes, so do I.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So does he. Okay. So isn't it interesting that they're all saying the same things? And well, I just remembered something else that I thought was interesting listening to her last clip, was that she said 87 or 88 is when this first guide came through, or the forceful one, and that's when Many Lives, Many Masters came out. I don't know. I thought that was interesting. But okay, let's go down the list here of commonalities. We've got this religion of these spirits. So we've got Sherry Cortland, Dr. Annie Kagan, Dr. Brian Weiss, all connecting with spirit through 3 different techniques, all involving the meditation, putting yourself in a trance-like state, right? Emptying your mind, making yourself available so that spirits can come through you. And they're all saying basically the exact same things. Although Kagan, this thing coming out of Kagan, conversations with her brother, right, quote unquote brother, are a little different. But for the most part, what's going on here? Okay, let's wrap up what life and death according to Sherry's guides. So we plan our lives. Okay, everything is about soul evolution, paying back karmic debt. We are heading towards an evolution where those more spiritually developed will end up on 5D Earth, the new Earth. We're all powerful spiritual beings. I have a clip where she talks about that, how we're all powerful spiritual beings, right? We're not born sinners. We're all powerful, and we should connect with spirits regularly. She's making this point that everybody can do this. She's like, anybody can automatic write. It's so easy. And she's like, here's a step-by-step guide, right? She's saying everybody needs to connect with spirits regularly. Should I go back and read Deuteronomy and Leviticus? Okay, so obviously there are higher beings, right, like the Arturians. They're helping us. They're all loving on the other side. We never die. Souls are eternal. We are starseed. Commonalities to all. We were seeded by aliens. We are starseed. Karma and reincarnation are real. We are immortal souls. There are different planes of existence, dimensions. We're all connected, all moving forward in a cosmic evolution. There is no judgment. There's no hell, no negative repercussions for your negative actions. Okay? Because in all 3 instances, we're shown how when you die, basically, you are being prepped for your next life. So there is no judgment, right? Whereas in the doctrine of Christianity, judgment is very real. It's eternal. Okay, forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever, right? But according to the doctrine of the galactic higher beings in different spiritual planes, okay, there is no judgment. Okay, no hell. Nobody talks about hell, right? Or anything, or anybody. A slap on the wrist even, right? None of that, okay? And we plan our lives. It's always consistent. We are the guiding force behind our soul evolution curriculum. Okay, it's us. It's not the Creator. The Creator is not sitting down with us at the desk with our laptops in space and coming up with a plan, right, so we can graduate, right, into unity with the Creator. Okay, it's us. It's us. And then, sure, we have higher beings that are holding our hands and stuff, okay, and helping us out on that end. Now, let me just read to you Hosea, the book of Hosea, chapter 4, verse 6. It says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I reject you from being a priest to me. And since you have forgotten the law of your God, I will also forget your children." So, people destroyed from lack of knowledge. And, again, the Bible talks about false prophets, wolves in sheep's clothing. What's happening here is that people are being convinced by these spiritual experiences that they're having, because the experiences they're having are very real, right? Because normal people wouldn't want to put themselves in a position where they're telling everyone, yeah, guess what, I was talking to my dead brother and I wrote a book, right? Because everybody would automatically sort of paint you as an outcast or as a freak or a weirdo, right? But they're doing it because it's really happening, okay? And that's impetus enough for them to follow through. Okay, so they're really having experiences, connecting with the divine. What does the Kabbalah say? It says, in order to do anything on the physical plane, you have to connect with the spiritual first. As above, so below. You have to do it up there, so you affect change down here, right? Nothing happens down here that didn't happen up there. Okay, Kabbalah. Now, what's interesting is that when I was a younger person and I had to deal with some heavy issues with my family. My mother is a cancer survivor, and for a good long while, I was very concerned and very depressed, and it was just a really rough time, right? So I think this was the beginning of my search for truth, and I found this whole near-death experience genre, and I really got into it, and this was like years ago. But you hear things about the life review and these beings in the tunnel of light, and I was convinced, right? And even up until yesterday, I was still grappling with this. When it finally hit me, the truth finally, it's making more sense now, at least. I don't know if it's whatever. To me, it's making more sense. But basically, what you have are people saying that they're dying, and then they have a review where they go over every event in their lives. Every time they affected someone else, they feel it from the other person's perspective, right? So, and it's happening all at once. It's like a big movie screen. It's like this huge, profound, mystical experience. And in the end, what are they saying? They're saying, oh, we're immortal souls, basically. We never die. They realize that we never die. They come back, and they're not afraid of death anymore, okay? In fact, they want to go back and die, right? Because they're like, it was more real there and more loving. It's always more loving over there, right? And so it's very similar to what these people are saying. Now you can say to yourself, well, those people actually died. They actually saw the other side, so it must be true, right? But think again, because think about it like this, and this is how it really all makes sense to me. Because if you are being deceived, as we are, and again, Evilkind was born out of the realization that duplicity extends far and wide on this planet, right? There are wolves in sheep's clothing in every direction, and they're on top of you at all times, okay? So we're seeing so much lying, deceiving, deception to the nth degree. It's unbelievable how real it is, okay? And yet you're going to expect that just because you died, it ends there? No. So this is my conclusion. It doesn't end there. So what happens is you reap what you sow, right? If you believe these lies, okay, in life, and you're sold, it extends into death. Now, you don't have the dead people coming back and giving you their accounts of their life reviews, right? You only have the living people. So who's to say they aren't being deceived by these Arturian spirit guides just as much as they were being deceived in life, right? It's all an illusion. Everything's an illusion. In this physical world, in our lives, everything is an illusion. You've got people that are lying to your face on a daily basis so blatantly, right? I mean, oh my God, I can't even believe how duplicitous some people are, right? But this is a reality on such a grand scale. You would be shocked. You would be shocked. So that extends into this period that they died, I guess, and more deception. They're coming back with the same religion of many lives, many masters, the same religion of the Arturian spirit guides, the same religion of Billy, the dead drug addict. Right? You live forever. There are higher beings there that are all kind of helping us out. You pre-plan your lives. You come back when to work things out. Right? It's okay to help other people on the other side. Again, it's all completely antithetical to what is taught in the Bible. Okay? Well, I have a little bit of time. I'll just go back and read Deuteronomy. And then there are multiple passages. I just happen to grab these two. But basically, there shall not be found among you anyone who makes his son or his daughter pass through the fire, one who uses divination, one who practices witchcraft, or one who interprets omens, or a sorcerer, or one who casts spells, or a medium, or a spiritist, or one who calls up the dead. For whoever does these things is detestable to the Lord. And because of these detestable things, the Lord your God will drive them out before you. Do not turn to mediums or spiritists. Do not seek them out to be defiled by them. Okay? So, just now it's all out in the open, right? All the information is out in the open. Okay, what the Hindus have believed from the beginning, right? Thousands years ago. What the Kabbalists believe, right? Virtually the same thing, kind of. What these New Agers, these indigo star children, right? And you should hear Ms. Cortland talk about how she's a star child, right? And how she has to work so hard. It's like it's so much responsibility. She says there's so much responsibility on her because she's an everyday person like everyone else. She has to do her laundry and deal with her, relationships, but at the same time she has to raise the vibrational level of all the people on the planet. And it's just so much responsibility, but that's what she's here to do, to transition people into 5D Earth, okay? I mean, these are her words. She really believes, she is sold, right? So what's going to happen, you think, like let's say, and God forbid, right? But let's say someone like Sherry Cortland had an accident, right, and had a near-death experience. What do you think would happen at that point? Do you think she would finally see the light? Or the light would present itself and would say, you know what, person who believed all these things in life and now you're dead? This is actually how it was. So let me just clarify all these. No! Okay, you reap what you sow. So I'm convinced now that these near-death experiences are lies, just like everything else. Just like everything else I see is a lie, right? Like in the world. Okay, it's all lies. And what ultimately, what is at the end of this lie tunnel? What is at the end of this lie tunnel, basically? Let's say they're all lying, okay? And everybody's believing in this Starseed 5D transition, this reincarnation, multiple lives, thousands of lives. There is no judgment. You don't be so hard on yourself, right? What do you think is going to happen at the end of that tunnel if they're all lies? You're going to end up in hell for eternity. Okay? Who wants that? Well, who wants that? There is no doctrine in Hinduism that says there's somebody out there who wants you to end up in hell for eternity. There's no doctrine in Kabbalah, right? It says we're all separated from the one. We're all working towards becoming one again, right? There's no doctrine in Buddha. The Buddha never sat down at the tree and said, you know what, there's an evil force that wants you to end up in hell for eternity. No. The Bible says that Satan knows that his time is short, so he's working fiercely, right? That's the only doctrine where this comes from. So from where I'm standing, where I see nothing but lies, okay? Because, I can, really point to very real instances of lying on such a grand scale like I just described that I've witnessed and that has been confirmed to me over and over again. Okay, so I see nothing but lying. I see nothing but deception. I see everybody confused, everybody being worked on psychologically, right? Cognitive dissonance, what is that? It's basically hitting you with two opposing forces at all times. So you have the mainstream media giving you one message, the alternative media giving you the exact opposite at all times. What does that do to your psyche? It leaves you confused. It leaves you kind of in a state where you want to just repress it all, right? You don't want to deal with it. You're getting two conflicting messages at all times, right? What does it do? It just puts you in a state of resignation. Okay, that is the whole concept of cognitive dissonance. That is the whole concept of sort of psychological warfare. Okay? So this is very real. These people are writing books. These people are charging you money for them to help you. Dr. Weiss's masters have instructed him to remove the fear of past life regression therapy from everyone so they can all engage in this. Sherry Cortland is telling everyone, is handing out a step-by-step guide on how you can automatic write. Miss Kagan is writing books about what her dead brother is telling her about how life is death is wonderful. Death is so great. The afterlife is amazing. It couldn't be better. There are no words to describe how amazing it is. What do you think is going on here? So I've got myself a little time, and I guess what I'm going to do right at the end here, I've got a few more minutes, is I actually turned on a radio talk show on GCN just right before I did this show, and I think it was I believe the show was the Dr. Coldwell Opinion Show, and it ended at 1 p.m. Pacific time. And there's a guy who was I couldn't catch the name because I couldn't understand. It was the connection. I don't know. The connection was bad or whatever, but it was all muffled. I couldn't catch his name. It was Rick something, and apparently he's an authority on the Anunnaki, okay? And what he's saying is, I wrote down some notes, some bullet points. The Anunnaki created the humans to mine gold. The planet Nibiru is coming, and the gods of Nibiru will live with humans in a golden age. We were originally created as primitive workers to mine their gold and to make food for them, but now they want us as partners. There's going to be great destruction on both planets when Nibiru arrives. Earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, but after that, we're all going to live in harmony in a golden age. He was pushing Zecharia Sitchin as like a modern-day prophet. He was saying, you all need to read Sitchin, right? Just go to sitchiniswrong.com. There's a website, sitchiniswrong.com, okay? Dedicated to everything Sitchin said and refuting it, okay? And then towards the end, he was like, I just want to let you know, and then Anunnaki, right, they're going to give us technology so we can live forever. Okay? And basically he was saying all the religions, like the Bible, was really about the Anunnaki spirit, the alien lords, right, populating the earth. I'm telling you, this is totally what he was saying. So you think he's telling you the truth? There's only two options here. Either he is intentionally deceiving you or he has been totally deceived. Right? It's one of the two. But he's definitely not telling you the truth. Okay? I mean, based on all the other macro evidence, right, of deception and lies, why is it that this one guy, Sitchin, and all of his followers now have the truth, right? Everybody else, hundreds of years, thousands of years, millennia, right? But this Sitchin figured it all out, right? He reinterpreted Sumerian text. Okay, and now he understands that there's this other planet with this alien population that seeded us here, that created us to be slaves, to mine gold. Doesn't that sound retarded? Pardon the expression. Just sounds ridiculous. So, I hope you were able to see. I mean, the picture here. I hope I painted it for you in a clear and concise way. And once again, Evilkind.com. We have cool T-shirts. We are fashion first, right? Our message. I guess our message is first. The fashion comes second. But the fashion is what we set out to do, right? Create cool clothes. The Evilkind is the badge of awareness. Evilkind.com. We've got a flat shipping fee. It's like $3 or something for domestic orders. And I hope you come back for more. We're doing our best here to provide you with information that has value to your lives. Okay? And what could be more valuable than saving your soul? I mean, what could be more valuable than saving your soul? Anything? Right? But look, we're not religious, ultra-religious people. We're not like gurus or anything. We're just normal people that are able to think critically think, and make sound conclusions. So thanks so much for joining us. Evilkind.com, and have a great week until next time.